Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Twitch chat. Welcome back to Let Us Play. I'm your host, Father Evan. It's good to be with y'all today, and I hope you're having a good day. Good to see you, Arium Legend. Good to see you, Brayherd. Good to see you, Darth. And Darth, you were so close to first, so close, but no cigar. So I suppose, Arium, this means you have the crown of cigar, singular, one cigar. Enjoy smoking it, I guess. Good to be back with y'all. Thank you for your patience. I had we have to do a mandatory workshop each year as part of our safe environment training. And so I literally had to do that. It was important. It was good. It was good. It was about boundaries. You don't smoke. You can have caffeine, period. But you didn't win the crown of firstdoms. Arium Legend did. He gets the crown of the cigar. Before we dive into Minecraft, let's do our Vatican II reading real quickly. The headlong development of the world and a keener awareness of existing inequalities makes for the creation and aggravation of differences and imbalances. On the personal level, there often arises an imbalance between an outlook which is practical and modern and a way of thinking which fails to master and synthesize the sum total of its ideas. Another imbalance occurs between concern for practicality and the demands of moral conscience, not to mention that between the claims of group living and needs of individual reflection and contemplation. A third imbalance takes the form of conflict between specialization and an overall view of reality. On the family level, there are tensions arising out of the demographic, economic, and social pressures, out of the conflicts between succeeding generations, and out of new social relationships between the sexes. On the level of race and social class, we find tensions between the affluent and the underdeveloped nations. We find them between international bodies set up in the interest of peace and ambition of ideological indoctrination, along with national or bloc expansionism. This is the middle of the Cold War, remember. In the midst of it all stands humanity, at once the author and victim of mutual distrust, animosity, conflict, and woe. Oh, there's a sentence that goes hard. The author and victim of mutual distrust, animosity, conflict, and woe. That's a good sentence. I want to have that on a bumper sticker. Anyway, let's dive into Minecraft. It's getting dark. Why did it have to be sunset now? I wanted to show off the new things I had been working on. So inside the church, I added an ambo. We're going to work on this crypt today, the Bishop's Crypt. But I did finish up... Also, I made these so we could actually, like, put nameplates, name plaques, whatever you want to call them. Headstones. Hey, JM. Going to office to prep meeting with OCA candidate. Hey, that's awesome. God bless. But I did actually finish building up the entirety of the crypt. We still have to do its walls. I don't want those to be dirt, but... I was thinking maybe just regular stone, but for now, stupid Enderman! Urgh. They come in here, they steal the dirt. They think they own the dirt. Look, I made coffins. And Brosif was very generous and dropped off a ton of cobblestone and regular stone. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Oof. And I want... regular stairs. Do I not have those yet? I guess not. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So another thing I worked on the inside of the church is I put in this lip of polished granite that goes all the way around. So that's kind of the midpoint. So it kind of breaks up things visually with the pillars. I think it works well. And then I did most of half of the roof. That is a precise measurement. Most of half. So I definitely want the bishop's crypts to be smooth stone on the walls. But fortunately, you only have to take out the bricks people can see. Dark down here. We'll worry about this later, because well, I may do something with this. I don't know. Maybe we'll just leave it like that. So I want to do these walls in stages so I don't accidentally ruin the natural curve of the space that we have. What I was thinking with the coffins was building out these, like... Is that what I want? Nope, I actually do want it this way. Building out, like, these plinths that the coffins could rest on. Hey, dear Hope. Hey, P-Tony. This isn't Slay the Spire 2. Amazingly, there are other games. I know this is bizarre to think of, but they do exist. It's gonna be okay. What? I know. Spooky. Yeah. Well, I hope it becomes a little less spooky once we make it less, you know, dirt down here, and we'll build an altar kind of here, because this is the crypt for the bishops. They don't all have to be in that area, I guess. Like, actually, I like the idea of them not being right next to the altar, because then we can let the altar just be the altar. It's like, this is in Monster Hunter Wilds! Oh, my friends, I hate to disappoint you. There are other video games. You're gonna be okay, though, I promise. Hey, Katie, welcome on in. Am I gonna make a wall of skulls? I don't think this mod allows for that. If I could make an ossuary, I would. So here's a sentence of what I did last night. That is not a sentence I ever expected I would say as a description of something I did. I washed century-old horsehair. How many video games are there? 7? Well, there's Mario, John Halo, John Madden, Factorio, Slay the Spire, and Dark Souls. I think that's it. So yeah, 7. There's a France that has an underground crypt as big as the city. Yeah, I don't know. It's in Paris, the catacombs. I don't know if it's as big as the city, but it's pretty dang big. Like, you go... I've never been there. I'd love to go, though. But you go there, and then you're like, oh, I totally get how someone could get lost down here. Hey, Craig. Just seal up the whole foundation. No. Give each bishop 2 torches. So crypts exist under a church sometimes? Oh, yeah. There's a crypt under the church I'm at. It's also standard practice for cathedrals to have a crypt, as it is tradition to have the bishop or bishop emeriti buried there. There, put that there. Can lay people be buried there? It depends on the individual church. Typically, cathedral crypts are fairly small. They would honestly be about this big and are reserved for the bishops. Although, it depends on the church, because there are some that have large crypts that would keep going. So, Old St. Patrick's in New York actually has a fairly large crypt system that's kind of like this. And in New York, in New York, at St. Patrick's, the modern one, the current cathedral, Pierre Toussaint is buried there, actually. Okay, we need some polished diorite for the floor. We need some polished deep slate. Do have some polished granite. That's good. Now, I know some cities do have very weird, well, not weird, but particular laws around burials and buildings and what's allowed and what's not allowed. Older buildings, like St. Patrick's, tend to be grandfathered into that sort of thing. In San Francisco, they actually removed all graveyards. They actually made it illegal to be buried there. And so they actually made the city of Colma, which is just south of San Francisco, which is basically a whole city that is nothing but graveyards. So there's like there's a Catholic one, there's a Jewish one, there's an Orthodox one, there's a secular one. They're all like right next to each other. It's like a modern day necropolis. Moshi Moshi, KMX. Is it meant for all bishops of particular diocese to be buried there, or does the bishop choose which church? It is typical and proper that it is the last diocese he served in. And that was kind of the contention around Bishop Sheen, because he had been an auxiliary bishop in New York, but then was made Bishop Peoria. And so typically it's, if you die in office, you're absolutely buried there. But, if you're retired, emeritus, then you typically get buried there as well. I'm doing well, KMX. Okay, so I have some options here on the flooring. We could try and do something that's like the main part of the floor, where it's like a circle essentially. Maybe that is what we do actually, because I was thinking like, what if we repeat this pattern on the floor? It's like, well, I don't like the idea of the floor and the ceiling being the same here, and I like that the crosses are kind of special for the sanctuary. Although I think it's off. Yeah, that's weird. It's actually this one's wrong. Needs to be like that. Okay, that was a pretty easy fix, fortunately. Okay, so let's map this out maybe. So we know that this is absolutely the center this way. Pretty good center like that. Yeah, it works well, because then we have one piece of diorite on each side. So then would we have room to do a second smaller circle somewhere? Kind of. We'd replace this with the polished deep slate. Actually, we don't have to. And what I'm thinking here even is replace this with coarse granite, because that would then kind of mirror the highlights in the upper area. Got to pay attention to those little details. Is that right? That's right. Okay, so whatever diocese exists in this fictional place in Minecraft has had at least 5 bishops, because there are 4 buried here. Guten Tag, Bierfox. Wie geht's? Yeah, I like this space. Also, I was thinking 6 torches there. As the lights for the... for the sanctuary here. Do I write stairs? No, I don't. Okay, well, let's make some really quickly, because this will mean all... Okay, so I want 4 here. 4 there. Because we have to make an altar in the crypt as well. And I want all 3 altars to be of the same material. So what I was thinking for this one is if we did it like this. And triple damage. And then we'll put cloth on it. And then this one, I'm thinking of making it kind of a little wider. I did see your application. I'm afraid I haven't had a chance to look it over in great detail and get back to you on it. It's been a bit of a busy week. I wanted this one kind of wider to fill the space. Hey, Mel. You can see what music's playing in the top left. It's all music by Ron Galinas. He does royalty-free music, and we love that. Thank you for twisting your arm. You're welcome. I knew, you know, it's really hard. Played Julian Lage. Is that royalty-free? Because if not, the answer is no. Well, I'm going to stick with my Ron Galinas. He's been a faithful companion in our Minecraft streams for 3.5 years now. It goes. You must find... Wait, you need to find more work, or more strength for work today? Ja, es geht, aber ich müsste mehr Stärke auf dem Werk heute haben. I'm a little rusty, but... Yes, music by heart, because my stream's nice. Oh! Ah, I was right. Yeah, I stopped practicing my German a while ago. How many languages can you speak? It depends on how you define speak. I'll take a look at that message after stream. No, you're good. I'm just letting you know. While I'm streaming, I can't pull up my Discord easily. Nice day for a walk. Oh, it was so beautiful yesterday, and I did not get to go outside very much. Oh, you got set. I'm sorry. What should I do? Block that person first and foremost. Hey, Britt, thank you for the lurk. Pray for him. That's also a good thing to do. But if someone is being a jerk, there's nothing wrong with saying, you don't, I don't need to stay in contact with you. Yeah, the polished deep slate sound is very nice. I am Catholic. God, in 4K. Father, public recommends prayer. I think I only stream in 1080p, but I could be wrong. I haven't looked at my settings for that in a while. Wait, how do I get down? No, Durant, sorry. You're not going to help. What do I think of Protestants? Well, I think they are our brothers and sisters in Christ. But I also believe that they are not in the fullness of the expression of God's church on earth. And I pray for unity and that all seek and know Christ more deeply. Out of curiosity, what do you think about Orthodox as well? Legitimate question. Orthodoxy is also, they are our brothers and sisters in Christ, which is the starting point for talking about any Christian tradition. Orthodoxy in and of itself is a different reality from Protestantism in that we as a church do believe they have valid sacraments. Sorry, I was doing math on blocks. And it is a beautiful tradition. So what unity looks like there is slightly different, but is still absolutely something we should be seeking and engaging in dialogue. And the church does. The good news is there are multiple levels of interfaith ecumenical dialogues. Zergtron! Thank you for the raids. Welcome on in, Raiders. My name is Father Evan, Catholic priest, streaming here 4 days a week. What were you up to today, Zerg? Good to see you. I have been Zerg rushed. The dragon dives in, yeah. I think with the Orthodox, it's a little different to say come home because they already have the Eucharist. And that is a very important starting point in spiritual dialogue and discussion. And unity with the Orthodox does not just mean subsuming them into Catholicism. We already have the Eastern Rite churches. But even then, it's not necessarily going to quite look like what the Ordinariates are now. Or not the Ordinariates. Well, it's not going to look like the Ordinariates, that's for sure. But it's not going to look like what the Eastern Sui Iris rites quite look like. There needs to be a little bit higher level of autonomy to fully respect the Orthodox tradition and theology. And I do think that is compatible within a Catholic theology, for the record. I'm not an expert. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I do think that's possible. Hey, Slash Mark. Yeah. When talking about the Orthodox, it is a very nuanced reality. Why do you say Protestants aren't the fullest? Because they do not have the fullness of the sacraments. You love huge windows. Nice. The sacraments are there are 7 of them traditionally held in the church, both in the Catholic and the Orthodox traditions. They are, the definition is sometimes visible sign of invisible grace. It is the way in which God has promised us that we can find his grace. So they're baptism, Eucharist, confirmation, holy orders, marriage, confession, and anointing of the sick. And vis-a-vis the realities of the Protestants separating from the church and losing what we call apostolic succession, that is sort of continuing the practice of, or continuing on from the apostles through ordination. They do not have the fullness of the Eucharist and most of the sacraments. They do have baptism and marriage, but that's getting into. But you're Protestant? That's okay. All are welcome here. But this is. You are absolutely welcome here. This is a space for anyone Catholic, a Protestant non-believer. But you know, if you're gonna, but this is my answers to like what I theologically view of the Protestants and why I think we should be working towards unity is because of the gifts of the sacraments, and to say, you know, if we can find this unity, we can find this space for you to have these and live in these. Okay, let's put some of this away. So the next thing I really wanted to work on, I think, was the back of the church, the apse, because we don't actually have that built up yet. Oh, thank you, K-Max. No, I didn't think you thought that of them at all. But yeah, I mean, I am very much friends with many Protestants, though. Like, it's not a reason to dislike someone or have a barrier between oneself and someone else. You know, first and foremost, we are brothers and sisters in Christ. By our baptisms, we share in a life of faith in him. Words are hard on the internet. That's valid. That's valid. But I want this, because we're gonna need Meep mess. Oh, Invisalign here. We'll put him at the altar. There he is. Tony is very right. And Peter actually hosts, I'm going to do a shameless plug for you, Peter. He hosts a talk show, podcast, once a week with his friend Webby, who's, I would say, is also my friend. And Webby is Protestant, P. Tony is Catholic, and they have really nice discussions around faith. You can find that on either of their channels. Except right now, because Webby is on vacation or something. Hey, celebrating Mass, let's go. Well, as close as he'll ever get. He's in France. Oh, I thought you were talking about me for a moment. I was like, he's in France? He's in France. He's with...
Ah, the French.
So this is going to just be two very large clear windows, but right here, what I'm going to do is using two different kinds of blue. I'm going to have a lighter blue on the outside and then a darker blue on the inside and make a rough shape of a human figure, and then yellow stained glass for a halo. He wants to visit Notre Dame. That would be beautiful. I'd love to visit Notre Dame. As long as he doesn't say Notre Dame while he's there. Speaking of Notre Dame, they did veto the weird design choices? I think so. From what I understand, they're just rebuilding back to what it was. I think I personally think that there is a time and a place to explore new designs, and I think a bit of a tabula rasa like that where you're rebuilding, even if you don't do it, I think is a really important thing for sacred architecture to do. Because sacred architecture is... Hey, Wolf the Adventurer, thank you for the follow. Welcome on in. Sacred architecture is its own form of theology. No, I don't think Notre Dame needs a pool either. Triggered. What are you talking about? This is the famed father of game favorites notoriety. I don't know about notoriety, but yes. I prefer to think of regular variety or infamous. Oh no, no, that's Dr. Nigel. Being friends with Patches does have a certain street cred. It's true. I've met Patches. Okay, we need more glass because I used a lot of my glass to make painted glass. Should I babysit Champagne? Yeah, Champagne just kind of rolls around. Do you think Protestants should become Catholics? I don't necessarily like that language because the short answer is yes, but in the long run, it doesn't really do a fullness because what we are seeking is a unity of church together. And I think things like the Anglican Ordinariate here in America is a great example of that, wherein people joined the Catholic Church, capital C, big structure, but maintained their spiritual tradition. So I don't want dialogue to just be us as Catholics with folded arms saying, well, are you coming or not? Because that's not dialogue. At the start of streams for Lent, I've been reading Gaudium et Spes, which is one of the documents of the Second Vatican Council, which was a gathering of church leaders in the 60s. But another document they produced is called Unitatis Redentagratio, the reintegration of unity. You want to see Champagne? Well, Champagne may be elsewhere. If someone did want to become Catholic, and you know, we do have, there's a process for that called OCIA, Order of Christian Initiation for Adults. It's done at individual local churches, and it's basically a period of prayerful discernment of, like, you know, is this where I feel called to worship God and to know God, and to learn about the Catholic faith. And it's usually 1 to 2 years, although, you know, different circumstances. Sometimes it can be longer. You know, sometimes you read stories of saints and they did it for quite a while. Oh, the sand shrew has plenty of other sand. I accidentally smacked the little, whatchamacallit, tumbleweed. Now, the other problem I'm running into is I'm actually running low on coal because I've been cooking so much cobblestone into regular stone. Named Bitchancer Anakin. That just sounds cruel and unusual. The other day, I was working off camera, and Tantalus came by to check out the project, and he was like, "This is huge!" And I didn't have the heart to tell him that it's smaller than the basilica we built in the other server. We'll get that turned into glass. I think I have some iron around here. I do. Good. Let's make... Well, actually, let's make a couple shovels. Those in there. These back away. Anakin is evolving. Congratulations, it evolved into Darth Vader. It's kind of grim. That's a good size apps. I like how that looks, too, the floor. And that is somewhat evocative of this. Okay, Rotunda. Today in the Gospel, Jesus says, I did not come to do away with the law and the prophets. I came to fulfill them. And there's a lot of different ways to read that. But I think one of the most important ways to read it is in light of the transfiguration. So when Christ went up the mountain and was transfigured before his disciples, and beside him appeared Moses and Elijah, symbolic of the law and the prophets. And what it means to fulfill that is best understood in light of his death and resurrection and what that means for us. So that Christ saying he comes to fulfill is not a warning, but a beautiful promise of God being made complete. I thought I had... Oh, it's in my inventory. Do I get along with other branches of Christianity? Do you mean like me personally, or do you mean the Catholic Church? Because I like to think the answer to both of those is yes. Yeah. No, I have no personal qualms with anyone who's Christian but not Catholic. Like they're still Christian. They still know Christ. Like that's wonderful. And there are great many things I can celebrate with them. But I can also hold in tension the reality that we are not one church, and that is saddening, because we are called to be the one body. We are called to be one church. And so one reality is not exclusive to the other necessarily. Up on that, can I ask you about excommunications and how that affects families being part of the church? Sure. What's your question on that? I cannot guarantee that I'm an expert in that. I've never excommunicated someone personally, so... Or would I? I mean, that's really... Most excommunications are what's known as latae sententia, which is more like, by the action you have done, you have brought this on yourself. Do I like shooter games? They're fine. I don't play them on stream, but I play a few here and there. Okay. I realized on the other side I should have put a bit of brick on the top instead of glass. Someone discovered their genealogy, then ancestors excommunicated. Details are a little fuzzy. Well, so excommunication is always of an individual. Sometimes of like a religious community, but then it is of a collection of individuals. And just because an ancestor was excommunicated does not mean that all of their descendants are excommunicated. And I would say that were you to discover that, the best course of action is simply to pray for that deceased family member. Brad came in and got email from his teacher. He's been doing much better in his emotions in class. Hey, that's good. Congrats, Cayman. That's good growth. Oops. Yeah, I don't remember the exact verse, but it's definitely something that Christ gets into, and that's what this Sunday's gospel is largely about from John. It's the man born blind, and a large part of that is the people around Jesus, particularly the Pharisees, being like, "Whose fault is it that this man is blind? It has to be someone's sin." And Jesus kind of steps into the middle of it and is like, no. Hey, Britt, with a Burkadoo. Priest calls man born blind an eye-opening experience. If we can't quantify grace, but it would be correct to say we receive more grace when we attend Mass and receive communion versus attending Mass and not receiving. Yes, but I don't think more really does justice, because that does get into quantifying it unintentionally. I think in receiving the Eucharist versus being attentive to the prayers of the Eucharist, which is itself its own wonderful, beautiful thing and a moment of grace, it is entering more deeply into God's grace. Because I think it's helpful if we think of just grace as not a binary of have it or don't have it. Although there's certain times of our life we certainly don't have it, but that's on us. The more that it is an infinite well into which there are ways we can dive deeper. Okay, and then I'll need to make some yellow. It's like I have sunflowers galore around here. Does that distinction make sense, though, Britt? Because I think your innate instinct is correct. I think it's just the way we would nuance it would be a little different. What am I looking for? I'm looking for more yellow flowers. I don't actually have... I thought I had more yellow flowers just on hand. Maybe we should do. Nah, I don't always go with that thought. I need to make some yellow stained glass, but not like a ton. Missed getting up from mass this morning, so it's planning to go this evening. Bed's parish that doesn't do both species. I don't know the priest, and I won't be able to as a accommodating. Yeah, no, and I think especially in that case, you know, God is seeing your intention of going, and like, you know, when we speak of, because the key thing is that the sacraments we absolutely believe are moments of God's grace. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. Ex opere operanto, all that. But still, attending Mass is a moment of encountering God's mercy and grace. Like, you know. Now it is. So. Gonna lurk, read more Philothea, The Walking Dead, but it's rather windy. Ooh. Yeah, windy plus book equals hard. What space do I have left? No, I did not plan a way to get out of here. I don't know why you're asking. Well, to quote Dangeresque, it looks like I'm gonna have to jump. Ow. You're free from jail. You paid the bail cost. Someone's posted bail. Oh, good, I'm glad. When I started talking about posting bail, I came up with a terrible pun. Brent was in jail and asked me to post bail. So I printed out a picture of Christian Bale and posted it to the wall of the jail. They still didn't let him out. Thank you. That is the appropriate response. Arian Legend has redeemed a father joke. I feel like we just had one. Is this time travel shenanigans? Speaking of shenanigans, I have to be careful, because if I shenan once, I'll shenan again. It's hard to... I am working in a very limited space, admittedly. Raise money to construct titles, will that be bailed? All I paid for a worse father joke. What kind of economy is this? What if I added dark blue along the sides there? What if I made the head asymmetrical, so it was just kind of like one block there with the gold around it, and then light blue all the way around? I had an image in my head and it looked really cool, and then I applied it to Minecraft and I went, well, maybe not.
Ah, the French.
Shizo, thank you so much for the sub with Prime. 6 months, my goodness. Thank you very much. And a 3-stream streak. Or it has unfortunately become to be known. Streaking. Oops. Well, that block is easy-ish to replace, at least, I guess. I think the allergies have me. I open Windows for 2 days. Sheesh! Hopefully it is just allergies and not something worse. Okay, I think I need to add one more down there for the halo to make more sense. Am I making a stained glass cross? I'm trying to make something that is evocative of our Blessed Mother for the main piece of stained glass. It's hard to do when your workspace is only 4 blocks wide or 4 pixels wide. Sides will all be clear. Everything else will be clear glass. Just a heat box for attendees. I hope this is in a temperate climate. This looks so much better in my mind. And I hope you can kind of see the image that I'm going for. Make it the top flat. I tried that already. It didn't really work either. Oh, that's the wrong color. Although, what if we did... If we did that for the halo, so it was less square and evoked some roundness. Odd numbers are your preference for this reason? Yeah. I kind of just built... I don't remember what I did, actually, when I started this. I think I just kind of picked out some ground and said about this size, and it just was like vibes, and then I was like, oh, it's even. I'm doing an even build. I'm still not in love with it, but... What if I did... Brown would probably be too dark. I could do white stained glass for her face. I appreciate you avoiding the meme. White? I could do gray. Actually, I think light gray might work better. You can't really see it. It's behind me. But yeah, do a box of white gray or light gray. What does this make? This makes white dye. I don't need white dye. The mod has made it easier to make white dye, but I don't need it. That bag of cigarette butts is new. Well, that's a sentence. It's more white lavender. It's just not the big white lavender like this. Help me hair across. Help me find different flowers. It's a carrot. I was not expecting that. Aha! Oxeye daisies, that's what we're looking for. And that should be enough. Okay. It's a real thing in the show. I'm surprised Brayherd didn't say it then. I like how the church is looking on the hill there. That's pretty neat. You're slightly distracted, but yeah, I noticed that when I did a full watch through Johto. What part of Ash's journey are you up to now, Brayherd? Okay, I can live with that for now. I may think on it, and I may add, like, arms. Like lines of dark blue with a light gray square for a hand. After you catch up in One Piece, you'll watch Pokemon? Ah, so never. Currently watching Unova. I think I had fun with the Unova region games. Let's work on the roof for a bit. And by a bit, I mean probably finish it. Except for the... So we'll have a pointed roof, but then a curve for the apps. You're not impressed by Unova? Can see why it's generally regarded as a low point for the anime. Oh. The church... I'm gonna have to count for that on Judgment Day to marry. Now let's make some low roof planks. That should get us pretty close. Yeah, but I think making a whole church around that might be a little odd, Kit. They dumb dash down? How is that even possible? I saw it coming and I just had to go, well. Oh, I know you would never disrespect our Blessed Mother. I didn't even get the piece. It was up here the whole time. They found a way. Oh dear. Life finds a way. Ash has been getting progressively smarter. I would hope so. I also haven't watched since the original season when I was a child, so... Ah, but they're making this for a new generation who has not seen the rest of the anime. Also, I really like the color of the Sika planks here. It looks very much like Roman terracotta. Yeah, excuse me. I think we'll see how it goes, but when we make the dome for the apps here, I mean, what we'll do is we'll bring up the circle. Well, I guess it really should start like there. It's gonna be a little lumpy. Anyway, I'm thinking I might put Sika planks on it, kind of going backwards towards that way. Why does it have to peak at the center? Why not at the edge? You mean like make it asymmetrical? I mean, there's no reason. But I chose not to. If I were to do it asymmetrical, I'd actually want to do it the other way around to counterbalance against the bell tower. But I kind of wanted to go for the classic Roman pointed rooftop. I will probably build some support beams on the inside when we're done. Okay, I have to start going at this from the other side now. I'm actually gonna dismantle this. And immediately rebuild it because some got stuck up there. And I want to grab some dirt to work with too, just as like for helping place things. Yeah, I'm gonna need more of the lower base roof pieces. Because one stack was certainly not gonna do it. Oh. Is this not tall enough on this side? No! It's just barely not tall enough. Ah! Hello? What are you? Oh, it's an onyx. It's a huge onyx. Let's try to catch it. Hi, Onyx. Mappack's least favorite Pokemon? That's a very specific thing. Go, Champagne. Please don't, one-shot it. Does he just have opinions about it? Because it's regularly messed up his day in Pokemon, or like... Well, now I'm tempted to name that that Onyx map pack. In stats, I do not understand Pokemon stats. I do not understand IVs, EVs. I understand EV if it's the Pokemon. But some of the other people in this server have been talking about those sort of things, and like having like resetting them and like giving them potions to boost them, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Back in my day. No trainer school on the server? No. Everyone else already knows everything, so. Nice as JRPG early game boss, which ends up as trash your random encounter. Oh. I understand that reference. Okay, how do I do this again? Nope. There we go. I also realized we're going to have to do some cleanup work on the bell tower at some point. Because, like, this touches where the glass is, and, you know, it looks weird to have wood just resting up against a glass pane. But that's a future us problem. See, like that. Well, actually, maybe that doesn't... Well, maybe that isn't so bad. We'll see how it looks when it's done. That's the most disappointing Pokemon around. That's... I don't know. There's some pretty disappointing Pokemon. I don't know. When I played Pokemon, I usually would just go, here's my starter. It's gonna beat everything. What's that? A gym that I'm weak to? Better power level until I can take care of them. Well, I can safely say this Onix is not going in my gym teams, because it's not my gym types. Your level is too high. I never actually ran into that. Because by the time I could get to the island, Cinnabar Island, and duplicate rare candies, I had beaten all 8 gyms, because the 8th gym... Well, the 7th gym was on Cinnabar, but, you know, it was, like, pretty easy to just go back, because you had to anyway, and then beat Gym 8. Oh, is it only if they're traded? Oh, well, that's probably why I never encountered it. Did you get a better night's sleep, Step Zero? Didn't have to get up at 3 a.m. Hey, Inca. Secret tunnel between the crypt and Brosif's graveyard. Oh, that's pretty far. Because here's the church. Here's Night Dance. Here's the graveyard. Like, that's... It's like 2,300... It's like 2.5 kilometers away. Now, if Brosif wants to do it... Oh boy, 3 a.m. lunchtime, what? I know you don't keep that weird of hours, K-Max. Well, glad you got a better night's sleep. You were given a blue belt. Congrats. If anyone messes around in chat, I'm sticking Brayherd on you. He's unlocked secret mod powers. You keep hours that weird? Yeah, but you're a librarian. Welcome back, Triple. Can I mention this stream to friends? If I do all your roommates, just come on, come on. Yeah, I'll check it when I'm done. Become something of an obsession. Yeah, I mean, give it 2 weeks. Everyone goes through their 2-week Minecraft phase, except for me. Oh no. Wait, no, that shouldn't be too high to... I was just lagging out. Okay. There is a height limit at which the Pokemon will appear, which is a problem because my gym is above that limit. Gonna have enough? Ooh, I may not have enough of... I probably don't have enough of these. It's gonna be close. Place these there. Nope, that doesn't work. Oh no. Not my most graceful moment, but that's okay. I'm gonna be like one shy on this. I'm calling it now. I've been staring at these planks so long, they're starting to turn gray. Should I be concerned? Oh, I was... Okay, so I was kind of right. The stack I had ran out one shy, but I had extra stacks, so everything was fine. This will be nice to have the roof of the church done. Because after the roof, then we can finish up the windows. We need to still build up these buttresses on this side and actually connect all the buttresses, but, you know. That's not right. Gonna have to go get that piece. But that is the roof completed for now. It's the main thoroughfare of the roof. That's the foundation's fundamental part of the new church roof. That's the new roof. This is the original roof. Roofs are expensive and they break down. They're a large physical space that, you know, handles most of the weather. Yeah, this is the original church building. We're still in the what's the word I'm looking for? The benefactor stage. I'm just going to remove this because it won't be there in the end anyway, kind of, because we want a rose window here. Maybe we'll work on that next time. It looks a lot less steep on the inside, interestingly enough. But you can see kind of how these pillars on the side will sort of hold it up, as it were. And we might add some cross beams. We might not, actually, given how low it looks on the inside. So let's fly out a bit and see how it looks. Yep, toe to tip. That's a roof. Why? Oh, never mind. It's fine. This is the only time I can do a full fly-through of the church. Because once that app's roof goes up... Hey, that's looking pretty churchy. You can kind of see the vision of the completed thing. I like it. We have mass in that church. Well, we had Meep in there at the altar earlier. It's hard to actually do mass in Minecraft, per se. I mean, in one literal sense, you can't, but... Take care, Triple. What on earth are you? I've never heard of this. This has to be a mod. This is not a real Pokemon. It's a Zigzagoon evolution? No, it's not. You're making things up. Here, I'll prove it's not real. I'll fight it. Why is it weak to bug? Oh, it's dark type. Oh, well. Deal with it. See, it's not real. I'm gonna sell the Metaverse Estate by my church. I'm gonna sell it to Kevin. I'm gonna go with Icy Wind so I can teach, honestly, Glaceon that move. Gen 8. People are making Pokemon facts up. Just trying to confuse me. Let's go find some trainers. Why is Dark weak to bug? That doesn't make sense. What does this look like on the map now? Okay, it still looks the same. I wonder if the roof tile type doesn't show up on the mini-map. Yeah, but I get why Dark would be weak to Fairy, and I guess fighting is because whatever, but why Bug? Dark came as a counter Psychic, needed weakness too. Dark Psychic had a counter. Psychic! Bugs are heroic. Shrimp is bugs. Well, I figure fairy's kind of like magic and light and all that jazz. Excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me, sir? Sir? People out here stealing my names. Kamen Rider. That was only one season of Kamen Rider, and that was only in America. I mean, it was in Japan originally, but like, most Kamen Riders are not bug-like. Or are not bugs, technically. They might be bug-like, but... It's Lickitung. Quick. Break a brick on its head. Well, I guess it's more bricks. I got distracted by my phone. I defeat Tamer Evan. Does that mean I defeated myself? I'm having a bit of an existential crisis in Cobblemon. I could have defeated you. This is true. Hello, Kakuna. Oh, an ace trainer. This can't go poorly. I trade for this moment. Sends out Bidoof. Did Trainer Evan defeat the one true Evan? No, he lost. Ow! That was rude. Minecraft. Hey, TC. Oh, this is not going to go well because Champagne's only level 32. Yeah. And Rhydon's already down for the count, unfortunately. Okay, I just have to defeat this Rapidash with whatever I have left. Wait, you're Steel type. Dang it, you're weak to this. Dig! Dig! No! So yours is an easy gym badge type. There weren't a lot of options left by the time I got to choose. I hope my Avalugg is fast enough against a Rapidash. No! I didn't punch them in spite. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, it's 500 gold. Oh. No, I have a nice type with me. I have Avalugg and Champagne. Problem is that enemy trainers their level's like plus or minus 3 from your highest Pokemon. Hey, Mithril. I think Sandtomb sounds like fun. Get a TM of that. What am I fighting now? Oh, I'm fighting... What am I fighting? Oh, there it is. It's in there. I'm sensing a theme, chat. I'm sensing the theme that I won. You're strong, Theme. You look. Excuse me? Why did you black out in Pokemon Center? Why did you lose money? Don't ask questions. Who would defend you in the world of Pokemon if you have no Pokemon? Did they mug you? Maybe. Maybe you pass out when you're out of shock and... I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think it was an Arceus, wherein if you lost all of your Pokemon, the message was instead something along the lines of, you rush back to the Poké Center. Or there was one game that was like that. You know, I'm gonna... How do I... I'm gonna sleep first. I would like my singular steel type to know his steel move. What do you mean it can't learn Steel Roller? Type steel. Can't roll up, so it can't learn Steel Roller. How does that... Durant. Please. Father Evan is the best Minecrafter ever. Died multiple times on stream. Can't count. Can't Pokemon. Yep. Who has the Steel type, Jim? It's a good question. I don't remember. Look at that roof, though. Maybe it's really type Steel. Then it might get me some good items, though. Is there always... Yeah, Brayherd takes the safe bet. You know, pays out. I need to come back to the library and actually finish the sacks, but the problem is, it's not a lack of wood. It's not a lack of paper. It's a lack of leather. No battling in the library. Oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks so good. Go to the underworld? I can. I can go to the nether. I don't know how that's supposed to help me get leather. There's things like Miltank, Tauros, Buffalant can drop leather. They're not guaranteed. I just need to round up some cows and do it the old-fashioned way. So, but I like the progress we made today. Speaking of Buffalant, that's a tiny Buffalant. Look at this thing. It's so short. But I feel like we made really good progress on the church today. So we did the whole roof, we did the back of the apse, we did the bishop's crypt. We still need to do the walls of the crypt down here, but we did the altar. Nice. I think that's where we'll call it for the day. So, thanks so much for tuning in to Let Us Play. I've been your host, Father Evan. It's been good to be with y'all today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Join us again tomorrow. We're playing Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. And then Friday, bonus stream, 2 p.m. Doing Donkey Kong 64 with crowd control, so y'all can mess with me. And then Monday, Kingdom Hearts 3. Tuesday, Kana, and Wednesday, Minecraft. And I think that's everything. So thank you to everyone who's liked, followed, subscribed, given bits, all that good jazz. Thanks for checking out the YouTube and the Discord. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And let's see who's live that we can raid into. We're going to go raid Zaphanath Panea. It's his 1-year streamer anniversary, so go give him some love and some congrats. Raid call is Father Raid. Spam any emotes you got. And again, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care. God bless.